Good morning everybody. In today's video we're going to be doing part 1 of a custom lion commission that I'm painting. So this video is going to be focused on the inner cape and the outer cape. There's going to be roughly a 3-part series, and the next video will be the armour, and then the final video will be things like the swords, the faces and the shields. So before we begin, I've got a couple of sub-assemblies. So the lion's main body has been fully built. I have left his rear cape off. And then equally the shoulder pads and the backpack are also off. And then the 2 watches I have left separate as well, because I will be painting these before putting them on the base. And then the lion's heads are all magnetized with a magnet here in the back. So the first area that I'm going to paint is going to be the cloak. So it's going to be the back cloak and this cloak in here. And we're keeping them sub-assembled simply because it's going to be easier for painting. Because if we had this fully built, trying to get into that purple cloak in the bottom or this red cloak here, it's just going to be a bit of a challenge. So keeping them separate, it's just basically a lot easier to actually paint them. So I will be using an airbrush for this, just simply down to things like speed, etc. And the paints we're going to be using are a base coat of Mephiston Red, first highlights with Evil Sun Scarlet, and then we're going to mix in some Troll Slayer Orange to the Evil Suns, and then eventually pure Troll Slayer Orange. I shall also be shading it with some Procryl Black Wash. So this is simply just going to be a quick all-over coat with Mephiston Red. So with the inside of this cape, with it being primarily in shadow, I'm going to want to really reinforce that compared to the outside, which is going to be more highlighted. So I'm actually going to take some Nagorov Night. This is a dark purple. Thin that down quite heavily in the airbrush, and I'm going to be spraying that as a shadow colour for the inside of the cape. So when I'm spraying this, I'm going to be aiming in an upward motion like this. So I'll be catching primarily the bottom edges and all of the recesses. With the purple applied, you can see it's fairly subtle, but it gives a really nice tonal variety in the shading. And now to reinforce it further, we're going to take some of the black wash from Procryl, and we're going to thin it down because although it is already thin with it being a wash, it is fairly intense, so we don't want it to be pure. And we're just going to repeat the same process, putting it into all of these recess areas. With that black wash all dry, you can see that our red has a lot of depth and tonal variety now. I've especially put some more black in this deepest recess here, and we've also maintained some of that purple as well. So up next, we're going to take our Evil Sun Scarlet, and this is going to be our main highlight colour. This is going to be on areas especially such as here, and along here, and here. And here we go. So with that Evil Sun Scarlet all dry, you can see we've got some really nice tonal variety and contrast between our bright red and our dark purple. So if you have a look at it on the actual lion himself, you can see we've got these really nice highlight points, and then we've got all that shadow under there as well. So moving on to the back of the cape, as I mentioned earlier, I don't want to use the purple because the purple is there to really help sell the shadow effect. So we are going to use that black wash again, and we're going to come in at a low angle and get it into all of these recess areas here. I will still be using the airbrush. You can just obviously use your paintbrush and just paint over the entire cape. That's absolutely fine. Okay, And here we are after the black wash has all been applied. So you can see, just like the other side, we've added a lot of depth into all of those recesses. So next up, we're going to take our Evil Sunz Scarlet again, and we're going to start our highlights. And here we go. After that, Evil Sunz Scarlet has all dried. This is how the cape is looking. So next up, we're going to do a 50-50 mix of Evil Sunz Scarlet and Troll Slayer Orange. So with this new mix, we are looking to increase our highlights even further. So instead of doing this whole highlight here, we'll focus on this bottom half. Same with things like here, we'll focus again just in a smaller area, and a smaller area over here as well. Okay, with that paint done, you can see it's a fairly subtle change. It's not a big drastic change in colour. However, this colour lays the foundation for our next colour, which is going to be pure Troll Slayer Orange. And if we'd gone from Evil Sunz to pure Troll Slayer Orange, it would have been a fairly hefty jump. So this just helps lay the groundwork for a subtle change. So this is going to be our final highlight colour, and this is just going to be a very small highlight. And here we go. So with that Troll Slayer Orange applied, you can see how vibrant and bright our brightest highlights are, and we still maintain that dark shadow as well. So if we have a quick comparison between each side of the cape, so this is the inner side where we've got that heavy shadow, and then if we look around the other side, you can see the difference there. This is way brighter, and then heavily shadowed inside. So the final thing left to do on the cape is to do a quick edge highlight on this area here. For this first edge highlight, I'm just using Evil Sunz Scarlet, and this is a size 1 brush. For our finer edge highlight, we're going to use Troll Slayer Orange, and this is a size 0 brush. With those edge highlights finished, our outer cape is complete. So you can see we've got this nice dark inner cape, and then round the back we have that bright red orange cape. So moving on to the inner cape of the lion, and this is going to be purple. So this is going to be base coated in Naggaroth Night, and then we're going to use things like Zerus Purple and Genestealer Purple as our highlights. Equally, I just want to point out that the two Watchers in the Dark, their robes are also going to be purple, so I'm going to be painting them in exactly the same way as the cape here. It's just I'll be doing that off camera. So here we are after the Zerus Purple is all dry. You can see it is a very dark but very nice and rich purple. And we have got some of the purple on areas of the armor, so such as the inner leg in here, there's some purple caught on that, and same with the armor here. But we're not going to bother about that because the armor at the minute is only primed, so we're going to have to go over it with things like Abaddon Black anyway. So it doesn't matter if we get any overspray because the Abaddon Black will cover that up completely. So moving on, we need to add some shading to our purple, and I personally like to shade purple with blue, This is Omega Blue from the Arm Painter. This is a really nice, quite dark blue, and we're going to simply airbrush this into all of our shadow areas. So after that blue stage is complete, you can see it just adds a lot of contrast and tonal variety into our purple. Now this very back part here, this will get completely covered up by the red cape. So we are going to no longer do anything to this, we're just going to keep it completely shadowed. But moving on to the front, we're going to go to our Zerus purple now and start blocking in our highlights. And here we go. So with the Zerus purple highlights, you can see that we have a very nice strong purple, and we still maintain that blue in the shadows as well. So our final highlights are just going to be a bit of Genestealer purple, and this is going to be on the brightest points, such as along here, and on this part here, and along here. And there we go. With the airbrushing segment all done, you can see how we've got these nice bright purple parts and we still maintain that blue shadow. So our last step is to come in with a couple of edge highlights with the Genestealer purple, just specifically along this edge here, this edge here, and then some up here as well, and this one. And here we go. With those edge highlights all finished, our inner cape is complete. So with the shield just quickly attached, you can see now the capes that we've just finished. So we've got that nice dark red in the background along with our purple. And then as we come around the side, we have that bright red orange coming in as well.